Welcome to Reading the Green, our golf and fantasy sports show. My name is Mike with Kyle and Jordan on Tuesday, June 4th. This is episode 112, the preview for the Memorial Tournament and a little bit of Canadian Open, probably some US Open. And I've just been informed by Kyle that the first part of the show is now reserved for, I don't even know what to call this, Kyle, NFL stuff, I'll say.
Dynasty fantasy football. Come on, big time. We started our draft on June 1st. It's a slow draft, so everyone gets up to 24 hours if you need it to make your pick. And the fun thing is, guys, I'm on the clock right now, second round, pick 2.4.
So the assumption is that there's enough crossover with our audience. I mean, we're a fantasy sports show. We like all fantasy sports. We talk 99% golf, but there are some people that are going to be interested in this, huh?
Well, yes, and basically, I just need Jordan's input on a couple of things. We haven't had a chance to talk about this yet. So, quick recap. And by the way, listeners, Mike tried to tell us that we had to keep it short, so we'll try to keep it as short as possible, but no promises. This is Jordan's true passion, not golf.
That's true. All right.
I had a pick in the first round. I had like 4 picks in the second round. I have a very competitive team. Would say I'm probably now the favorite to win it this year because did some conniving, traded up. I had the 12th pick in the first round, traded up to get the 10th pick, and then turned around and traded that to the guy that had the 11th pick and got Dak Prescott out of that with shuttling a bunch of the second round picks with it and stuff. I went kind of all in. But that left me with 1 second round pick left. And so I'm sitting here at 2.4. And Jordan, since my last update to you in the second round has gone Thomas, Blake Corum, I was kind of targeting. If I need anything right now, it could be a running back, and I have Kyron Williams, so it would have been nice there. And then Pretty Ricky just went at 2.3. So
I love seeing Mike here. Just like,
is that Ricky Williams? I'm sorry. Serious question though. So Blake Corum is going to go first part of the second round, but where was he drafted in the actual NFL draft?
Well, this is just rookies.
Third round?
Yeah.
Wasn't he third round?
Yeah. And you're not drafting linemen and defensive players.
I understand. It's just that guy, like, he was erased from my memory because
third round pick 83.
Okay. All right.
He was a third running back, Mike, to go in this draft. It's been a lot of quarterbacks.
No one likes running backs anymore because they're basically, no matter how good they are, you can replace them with a college kid the next year. So
sure.
The first running back went off, late second round, early third round anyway. So it's not your Adrian Peterson in the top 5 at NFL anymore.
So real quick, Jordan.
Yeah,
I'm not super interested in Xavier Legette, Adonde Mitchell. I don't want Penix.
I'm super interested in how you pronounced all 3 of those names wrong.
Oh yeah,
all 3 of them.
Penix,
Legette. First one was Legette. What was the second name? Adonai is his name.
Mitchell.
Adonai.
Oh. I don't need to say their name. I'm just going to win them in fantasy football.
Oh, that sounds racist, Kyle.
I has nothing to do with who the people are.
Just kidding.
Yeah. If I had to take someone maybe like a Jalen Polk, interests me more. But I think I'm going to try to trade back. So, what's your opinion?
Yes to trading back because that's just the smart thing to do. If you don't need it. None of these people are going to help you this year.
No, and right? I would, if I was going to take somebody that could maybe help, it would be a running back. But Jalen Wright was probably the next running back, right? Mike is staring.
We're going to have to, if this is going into live research. Come on, George.
Maybe Marshawn. I needed a lineup of like who is even. Okay, maybe Marshawn Lloyd.
Yep. That'd be the other option. So give it some thought, and then I'm going to throw out a trade offer for you, and then we can come back to this at the end of the show just to make Mike happy.
The other one that actually I would do Jalen Wright before those, but Ben Sinnott, you need a tight end. That's why it's probably a good trade back 3 or 4 spots and draft Ben Sinnott.
Oh, I did make the tight end trade as well, but
oh wait, you got one? Who'd you get?
the guy went from Dallas to Houston. Drawing a blank right now on his name.
Schultz.
Dalton Schultz.
Yeah. Yes.
Look what I know.
Mike.
Yeah. Look at Mike. Yeah. So last little bit, the guy that took Rome, Oduzier, he is looking back.
So bad.
I can't. What's going on here? I just can't say names. I don't know why. He's looking to collect more picks. He's a guy completely rebuilding. So I was thinking of offering him 2.04 and Jahan Dotson and 4.8 for Rome.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
All right, I'm gonna send it on the show, and maybe we'll have an update here.
Let's pause,
Mike. I actually think Dynasty Fantasy Football you would love. This like being the GM is trading, building for the future, rebuilding, knowing when to get out on a guy. It's actually
sounds kind of like Rainmakers for me. You know, I could do it. Maybe we should have an entire RTG spinoff that's Dynasty Football. You guys can host. I can just provide the sexual jokes.
You think there are a lot of well, that would be funny to begin with. You think there are a lot of PGA Tour podcasts
I'm just kidding.
It is bananas out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well,
the other one, Kyle, trade back a couple spots and get Jermaine Burton. He's going to be the steal once T Higgins is gone.
All right.
Okay. Wait, golf? Is there golf?
We're gonna talk golf.
Did I win golf last week?
You didn't. You weren't even close. We're gonna cover a few golf topics here. Then we'll talk about golf betting. But first of all, we got a whole bunch of U.S. Open stuff to get to. We'll do a very little bit on the Canadian, then we'll talk about the Memorial. But did you guys watch the Women's U.S. Open at all?
No.
I saw a little bit, very little.
It was interesting. So Yuka Sasso in 2 seconds. Yuka Sasso wins second U.S. Open in 3 years, and I thought it was funny because I think somebody, might have been House Money on Twitter, commented that, you know, why is she never near the top of an LPGA leaderboard, but majors she's always killing it? And I think Byron responded something like, "Oh, well, that's because her nickname is Yuka Kepso, only shows up for majors." But that's kind of the reputation she's got now. 2 U.S. Opens in the last 3 years. I watched a lot of it on Sunday. It became less compelling on the back nine as she was clearly playing miles and miles better than anybody else, and a lot of the other gals kept on folding down the stretch. Minjee Lee ejects on 12 after she hits it in the water. It just it really opened the door. So Sasso ends up with a 3-shot lead coming down the stretch, and that was kind of all that was there. But
how did you not ask Kyle to say all those names?
We got plenty of names for Kyle to say the rest of the way. So he's already given me plenty of material for the ISOs at the beginning of the show. So okay, so you didn't watch the Women's US Open. What about the longest day in golf? Kyle, I know this. I know you get pumped about the longest day in golf. And if you're not familiar with it, this is the whoever came up with this, because I don't think this was the case like the last 10 years ago. Like, I don't remember all or 90% of US Open qualifying finishing on the same day a week before the tournament. But marketing genius to do this.
Yeah, I do feel like it was more spread out in the past. I do love the day. I didn't see as much as I would have liked this year, just given what else was happening. But the match the site I probably saw the most of, because of it carried on into the evening, was Springfield, Illinois, right? And the Adam Scott drama. We talked a little bit about that last week. I had the dates completely wrong. Not that would surprise anyone, but he had played every major since 2001.
91 straight majors.
That's asinine.
It is.
What number is he on the wait list? He's like
6.
6?
Sorry, not 6. Sorry, I take that back. There are 6 alternate spots that are potentially available, and I think it's reserved for shuffling in the world rankings this week, where if you had 6 guys move up high enough, I think it's top 60, they would be in. But they don't release the order of the alternates. And I can tell you from amateur qualifying that I've done in the state of Minnesota, they do it based on the differential at the qualifying course. So like, everybody's going to have a raw differential, and that's what sorts the alternate list. I don't know what they do for the US Open.
I was going to ask you that question, so thank you.
Yeah, so we don't know. I mean, he has a chance to get in. It's just nobody knows. And he did not get a sponsor's exemption for the workday, which he could have gone out and won, but he did not get that benefit.
It's too bad it's not like Patrick Reed or someone in this position, because they would go Tanya Harding on someone in the tournament. But Adam Scott,
he would. What's his caddy's name? Whatever his name is, he would definitely have him go and do it. Kessler or something. But here, so Kyle, that was my first. I had 6 bullets on things that stuck out to me with US Open final qualifying results. A little bit of a Minnesota spin, because that's usually what I look for. I like to see some of the local guys and what they're doing. So Adam Scott, so he loses to Cameron Davis in a playoff after Cameron Davis bogeys 18 to even result in a playoff. Adam Scott chips in for birdie on the first hole. Cameron Davis rolls it on top of him and stuffs it to 2 feet on the second hole and eliminates his countryman. It's kind of cool. Like, Cameron Davis is got to be 15 years younger than Adam Scott.
Well, and they were both, I want to say they were in the last 5 that weren't auto qualifiers based on. So that's something else somebody else brought up on Twitter too. That would just be fascinating to me, to like a behind the scenes process on how these guys decide where they're going to go try qual.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can tell you that. The most amount of qualifying I've done is state amateur qualifying, and I've been most successful at larger fields because there's just more variance, and so you don't have to play quite. You go to a smaller qualifying site, like all it takes is one guy shooting 68, and that's toast. But it also comes down to like course fit too, like what's going to suit your eye, where you think you can go low. I don't know. I'm sure it is really interesting where they're at in the schedule. A lot of these guys, what they do Ohio because they're there this week, and or Canada because they're there the following week, or got one in Japan, England.
Yeah, and did they set the number prior? Right, so like Oregon, for example, I would assume they had 2, and it was a crap field.
Yeah, I would assume that it is. Well, I can't say that it is based on. There's only so many guys that get through the qualifying at the local qualifying, or the first round, whatever they call it. So I'm not sure. That's a good question. Couple of other bullets. So both Molinari brothers qualified at different sites, and I'm definitely a please go away Molinari family. Not a fan. And so they'll both be in the field next week. Daniel Berger qualifies, more or less steals a spot from the live darling Joaquin Niemann and I'll say fan favorite Cameron Tringali. Both guys near misses.
Yeah, the Florida qualifier was not nice to live guys. Hate to see it.
So then I got a couple of Minnesota tie-ins here. So your guy, Frankie Sappin III, who you declared dead in the water after 2 holes of his morning qualifier. You texted, "See ya, Frankie." He was 1 over after 2, proceeds to shoot 7 under over the next 34 holes and wins his qualifier.
To be fair, I looked at the scoreboard completely wrong. As you pointed out right afterwards, I thought he only had 16 holes to go at that point and was like 7 shots out off of it, the number. And so, yeah, then he goes and wins the qualifying. Good job, Frankie.
So Frankie Sappin will be there. He's got the local tie-in playing up at your brother's course. Got Gunnar Bruin. I don't know, Jordan, if you know Gunnar, but he was a standout on the Minnetonka high school team 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
Played a little bit at Colorado State and now is a senior at Kansas. He got in at the Ohio State qualifier at the Scarlet course. And then just a shout out to Matt Raichi. Didn't qualify for the U.S. Open. He's the University of St. Thomas, Minnesota golf coach. But he participated in the qualifier, I believe, in New Jersey. But he's also a third place finisher in the Island View Club Championship 2016, when yours truly won first of two. So I feel, I got that on him. I'm not going to tell you how many times he won the club championship, but I got him 1 year.
That's awesome, Mike. Good.
Wow.
So yeah, the U.S. Open final it's a fun follow on a Monday when it feels kind of dead with sports. We didn't even have like NBA or NHL or anything going on, so it was a good read last night.
And it goes till 6-7 o'clock, so it's nice post work activity too.
Yeah, alternative media, Golf Channel, all that, they all do a really nice job of getting some of those stories. A lot of tiers, a lot of guys that like grinders, John Chin, guys that have like been grinding on the Corn Ferry Tour. Justin Lower was in tiers. So yeah, it was good stuff. Before we get to the Canadian Open real quick, we are 1 week away, 1 week and change, getting up early Wednesday morning next week to get an airplane to go to Raleigh-Durham International. What are you guys excited about? Give me one thing. What are you excited about next week?
Golfing.
Yeah, lots of golf. Actually, the first place my mind went when you said that, Mike, I was like, oh crap, I need to figure out a good sleeping plan for next Tuesday because I will not be able to sleep.
I'll take an aid for sure.
What do you but that's I'm the different. I'll be up late, wake up early, and then that way I can sleep on the plane.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm really excited, and I don't think I've ever like really shared, at least not on the show, like share this. I've alluded to Pinehurst. I'm wearing a Pinehurst hat. I went down there last October, and I'm going to try to say this in a way that's like the least like privileged country club kid sounding way, because I hope that
you don't pull that off well, Mike.
Yeah,
I have an amount of self-awareness, like at least saying this, I have an amount of self-awareness. But my dad, who will be down there at the tournament, my dad and his brother, who will also be down there, they started going to Pinehurst in the mid 80s. Like before I was born, they were going to Pinehurst every single year on a brothers or buddies golf trip. It's been kind of various forms. They did stuff like, I know in the 90s, I didn't really get it. He'd go for a week or whatever. They would play like 36, 36, 54, 54, 54, 36 and get out of town.
Whoa.
They'd stay at the resort, unlimited golf packages. They just got to know the starters. They'd get times that allowed them to just keep going. I think their record was like 63 holes or something like that. And that's what they would do. And so Pinehurst was just very special for me. It was always like this kind of thing that was there. I'd never been there, but I just knew my dad went there a bunch. And in the early 2000s, I think when he and my uncle, were their point in their life, their careers, whatever, they felt like they could do this. They decided to co-invest in a property down there. And that house is on course number 3. And it came with a membership. And so starting, I was in high school, that became like the place we went. Every time there was a vacation, we met up for Thanksgiving every year. It was like every spring break there. It was golf camps in the summer, whatever. But it was for the members, for the local residential members, it's not expensive. That's not how the golf course makes money. They make money off of paying ridiculous greens fees and resort fees and all that. So for us to play golf as a member, I don't know what the dues were, but even for me to play course number 2, the trail fee was $15. And so I've probably played number 2 as well as every other golf course there. I don't know, couldn't count, 25 times, 30, 40, like at least a couple times a year since I was from age 15 to 32. And so, but it was like nothing. But so Pinehurst to me is just it's always been in my family, and it means so much to my dad. Like, it means so much to him. So like the fact that you guys are going down and like we're making an effort to, wives are going to take the kids for a couple of days. Like, this is like means a lot to him to be able to like open his home to, and this is like where he's gonna retire. So I don't know if he sheds a few tears, that's why it's like this is like a big deal for him. But but for me, I've been to every US Open here, the 99, 2005, 2014. I was a standard bearer in 2005. And so I guess for the audience, like if you want some Pinehurst insight, like I have it, but it will definitely feel a lot different when we're there. I haven't been down there much, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for being a part of it.
Have you told them how drunk we're gonna get while we're down there?
So my dad, he has a couple rules. He will not open an alcoholic beverage during a round of golf. He's not opposed to it. He personally won't do it. We can drink as much as we want. He doesn't care. Second rule, no TV while at Pinehurst. I don't even know. Like if it was up to him, there'd be no TVs. So
even if to watch the US Open while not there.
That's tough. That's probably okay. But you want to throw football on in the evening? No, that gets ruled out pretty quickly. So you're there.
Even
during
Thanksgiving?
No, we don't. I was just there in October. The first thing I walked in the door and I was like, hey, you could throw on that Bills Bengals game? And he's like, why? And I was like, okay, no reason.
Notice how I left the silent after your beautiful speech there, Mike, because I let Jordan break that ice. Figured he would be the better one to speak after that.
Yeah, no, you're about to shed a tear. No, but I mean it sincerely. Like this is a really fun week, and it's
we're excited. We're excited to go. I need to get to the simulator, work on a couple specific things.
It's got to be one of those
trips.
The
range. I need the simulator. I want to know, like, I want to work on 50 to 100 yard shots. You can't do that at the range. Like, I want to say this is 60 yards. I need to know 60. This is my 60-yard swing. This is my 70.
Isn't that what a rangefinder's for? We'll get you a launch
rangefind to air.
God, the ground in front of you. Come on. Well, anyways, I hope next week is not about how well you play. It's about how much money you make off your friends, yes, but it's not about how well you play.
It's nice
We're gonna do a lot of fun stuff.
It's nice of you to talk to Kyle like that.
I'm gonna play the Reds.
All right. Let's move along. Sappy stuff out of the way. Canadian Open, just a couple of quick hits. We don't spend a ton of time on it. First of all, the rink. If you're familiar with the rink and kind of the rotating featured hole at the golf course for the Canadian Open, the rink, yay, nay, or a?
I go A. You know, I like that event overall.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, they frame one of the par 3 tee boxes on the back 9 each year at the Canadian Open with hockey boards, and people cheer and they chant, and the players decide if they're going to hit a shot during that. And so, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's okay for a handful of those. We ain't live around here, but it's fun certainly for Canada to embrace it. Yeah.
I enjoyed the course overall, and maybe you're going to get into that, but the elevation changes and whatnot. Yeah. I didn't see as much when I was in Hamilton last time around, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
No, I think it was a good setup. We had some caddy issues, obviously. CT Pan digging deep after Fluff, who I'll tell you, in 1999, I saw Fluff. Maybe it could have been 2005. One of the US Opens. I saw Fluff like crawling his way out of an Applebee's with a woman that was 30 years younger than him. And I think this is post Tiger at this time. And I can't believe 20 years later he's still hoofing it.
That's a hell of a story.
Well, you know why he's still hoofing it, right? Because he's got like one kid left in like high school or college that's probably from that woman that you saw him leaving the bar with
18 years ago. Yeah.
No, but I've someone, I don't know where I saw it, but like he's still working because he still has a kid in college.
Okay. Well,
like
he got hurt.
Yeah,
falling down a hill.
Do you know what we were talking about? Did you see this?
Me?
So yes.
I didn't see him fall, but I saw the big guy come out of the stands to be his caddy.
Fluff Jr.
Yeah. So Was there any verification? Because I feel like in the moment, and Mike, you might have seen more about this. Like they're like, oh, he pulled a fan out of the stands, and then that guy did it for 2 holes. Then another guy did it for 2 holes. Again, that looked like he just came out of the stands, and then a local actual caddy from the course finished the round. Is that accurate?
Why did the one guy only last 2 holes?
I don't. That might have been. Do you realize how heavy those bags are? Like, I don't think that guy really knew what he was getting into.
There's some elevation change out there. I mean, at least he had golf shoes on. The guy was ready, had golf shoes on, watching golf. Yeah.
Well, and then you also then had obviously the atopic Robert McIntyre, Bobby Mack getting the win with his dad on the bag after he called him up on Saturday night before the tournament and said, "Dad, I need you out here with me this week." I mean, you literally can't make that up. And that's what is so great. Yeah, so great about some of these stories this year, last year. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And yeah, when he said, I think Jordan, you texted it, but when he was like, I'm just a grass cutter. Dougie McIntyre.
I'll give Kyle that credit because
it was Kyle. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Anyways, you guys ever been to Canada? Either of you?
Yeah, I spent almost a year in Toronto.
I have not, but I'm going in 13 days.
Oh,
right after we get back. Edmonton and Alberta.
Dude, you might be there for the Stanley Cup.
Oh, that's true.
I hope you're booked for the hotel room if you are.
Well, just watching the golf, I don't know what it is. I've been there a couple of times. Canada's just always just a little off. It's just a little off. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. But that shows up on TV.
I loved Canada. I was in Toronto, like downtown Toronto, so not exactly Canada. It's a cleaner, nicer version of Chicago and New York, with an amazing Chinatown.
Fair enough.
Where the course was, Hamilton was only what?
It's like a suburb-ish, like an extended exurb of Toronto.
Well, let me hit some of the RTG stuff really quick because I know we're running along. We want to do the memorial. We got a couple of things we got to talk through. Listener League, Kins Mobile 1 on a run here, takes down the win. Kyle, congrats on second. I thought I had second in the bag, and somehow I finished in fourth because Spicy 1 also snuck in there. So good job, gang. Good in the model. Hey, we were all over Chandler Phillips. Where did he end up finishing? I should have looked it up. I think it was the 11th, 12th, something like that. Feel pretty solid about Chandler Phillips on the weekend. The bad, Alex Noren. Maybe you could see that coming. Of course, you have a guy that makes like 20 cuts in a row and is playing great golf. Models all over him. Everyone in the community is all over him, and then he just flames out. But yeah, Kyle.
Chandler Phillips 10th. And we talked a lot about Tom Kim last week with 4th.
Yeah, even Mac Meissner. He was up there for a while, making the cut. So we had a couple of good deep down plays, which I think helped me to a profitable week, I should say. Bobby Mack obviously wins at -16. Spencer Aguiar over at Rotoballer, Griffin, TK, Burns, Phillips, Fleetwood, Meissner. He gets the top RTG expert of the week. And then I wanted to call this out. The gutsiest play actually was a 2-mention play, and it was Robert McIntyre, but it was Ron Kloss and Byron Lindeque. It's the same pod. So Kyle, you must have listened to it, but they must have been all over McIntyre.
Yeah, and they usually do not agree very often on plays, so you only see crossover maybe 3-4 a week. But yeah, they were both on Bobby Mack.
Jordan, any movement on one and done this week? Everyone take Bobby Mack?
Great question. Kyle was just texting me about a fantasy football trade, so let me open it up here quick.
The listeners want to know our great trade with Jahan Dotson there got turned down already, so that's not bad.
It was a low money week this week, very low. One person had Tom Kim, got 400,000. Another 4 had Corey Connors, including moi, as well as Champles. So he's keeping his lead there, but only 340K, so not a ton of movement anywhere. I see Mike, you got a couple dollars.
Wow. That was a late switch off Connors to Lowry. That was a That
This
burned
is
me.
this is the most missed cuts I think we've ever had. There were 14 people that got $0.
Yeah. A lot of
Uh,
Thagala, Cameron Young. That was probably burned a
yeah,
few people. Norin.
yeah. Kyle, who did you have?
Tigala, I believe.
You can just say missed cut.
Miscut. I miscut.
Oh
Well,
yeah, but
last thing.
so I guess I made up a little ground on Buke. I forgot Buke is the one in the lead. 2.2 million back. Champles is another million behind me, as well as Stogie and Dingus.
All right.
So it's competitive at the top.
We got some money to make the next couple of weeks. There's some big purses, so hopefully we see some shuffling. Last thing is we are still alive in the Survivor Reloaded. We're down to 7 people left,
Let's go.
so we got some work to do, and maybe we'll just jump right into that with the Memorial preview. Muirfield Village. This has been on the calendar forever. And so we like when we get golf courses that we know a lot about and we have lots of data on. Dublin, Ohio. Last year, Victor Hovland wins. This is during his torrid stretch. Really, that kind of lasted through the end of the season. And it is a signature event this year. It's one of the player-hosted invitationals. So you have 73 players in the field this week, top 50 in ties, plus anyone within 10 shots of the lead will make the cut. So we anticipate that there will be something in the range of 6 to 12 players that potentially are cut, but it won't be very many. Big boy golf course, Kyle. I assume that we are going to want to see some elite play across the board here.
You're right, Mike. Solid test. Big boy golf. It was the second most difficult course on tour last year. And the 16 and 17, 18 were actually the hardest 3-hole stretch on tour last year. And it was 1.1 shots over par is what those 3 holes played at. So tougher than the snake pit, bear trap, aiming corner, whatever, all the other ones that you hear on tour every week. That really should have its own moniker. There's only 4 holes that played under par, and only 7 and 15, which were both par 5s, were substantially under par. Obviously, it just like a lot of courses, big from a second shot standpoint, but you really need the big full tee to green game. Longer irons, 23% of your shots or approaches were 150 to 175, 23% on average were 175 to 200, and 23% or over 200. That does not leave a lot when you add 323% together for the shorter ones. So you have to set yourself up for success off the tee. Yes, length helps, but you also cannot get wild, right? So it's really total driving and long approaches is what we're looking for. And around the green though, too, it's not the shaved that we see sometimes that really gives some people troubles, but it is thick enough to the point with some creative bunkering and tough sloping that it is around the green does have a big correlation to success here. And you mentioned Vic. He's not known for his around the green to play, but where he does play okay is places like this.
It's interesting. I believe this is going to play as one of the longest courses on tour, and it's also going to have some of the smallest greens on tour, and so that's a really interesting comparison. So when you get smaller greens, you also end up with you end up with a premium on around the green play. You're just gonna miss more greens, and I thought it was interesting. There was a little debate going on Twitter, and I can't remember exactly who started it, but there was this question, and I think it was thinking ahead to Pinehurst and saying, people like Vic, they can't succeed at Pinehurst because the tight chipping areas and the fairways and the runoffs and all that. And I think basically what the response was collection areas and tightly mown runoffs. Those are easy for pros. They're hard for us, but tight lies are easy for pros. What's hard is rough that's variable with different lies and whatnot. And so that's what I think why around the green play is going to be at such a premium this week, is because you're going to have a lot of short-sided chips, short chips, long chips, lots of variability, and so you're going to want to look for guys that can really get out of a jam if they're missing these small greens. So with that, Kyle, who besides Scotty Scheffler is worth talking about this week?
No surprise. You know who leads the way so far. I mentioned share 56%, also very high in the mentioned power index so far too. But behind him, let's go to the clicks that matter. Colin Morikawa, $9,800, 43% mention share, 64 on the MPI. Victor Hovland, as we talked about, he's 10-2 this week, 43% mention share, 58 on the MPI. And then we have Triplet at 31% mention share. Austin Eckroat, $6,700. Denny McCarthy, who had a good finish here last year, if you recall, 7,600. And Tony Finau, 7,900. I'm kind of surprised with that triplet of names we have there.
Yeah, I think this is there's a lot of interesting things going on here. So first of all, just on pricing and DK strategy, Scotty 12.5, that's obviously the top. Next click down is, I think, Rory at 11.1. No 5K range. So I'm not sure how DK decides if they want to include a 5K range or not, but there isn't one this week. But I still feel like there's some pretty soft pricing in areas that I'm curious what it's going to do to ownership. So, but first of all, Denny McCarthy, 7,600. I guess he finished runner up to Akshay at, I'm blanking on where that was. That was the Valero. He had a T6 at the Wells Fargo, 24th at Colonial. This kind of feels out of nowhere to see Denny up this high, other than the fact that he was second here last year and fifth in 2022. So maybe that's where we're getting some of the.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I struggle to see the Denny love. You know, we want Denny at putting contest. He has not been good on approach. He lost 2.7 shots at the PGA. He lost a shot at Schwab. It was negative at Wells Fargo. Lost 3 or 2.5 at RBC Heritage. Basically, the only thing that's keeping him afloat is that putting, which is Denny for you. But there's places I want that angle, and I don't think it's here. So I think people are getting blinded by the good finishes in the past. I mean, he did gain 3 strokes on approach here last year, but at the PGA last year, he also gained 4 strokes approach. So he was in much better form with his irons than he is right now.
Excellent research there. So I agree. I'm probably off Denny this week. Again, we're going to be outside of Scotty. I think Scotty's obviously full lock this week. He's course proof. He's form proof. Like he's going to play great. And it just comes down to how you want to build lineups. There's 2 guys in the 9Ks that I think, one you mentioned, Colin, 9,800. Given the way Colin has been playing last 6 events, 4th, 16th, 23rd, 9th, and 3rd, going back to the Masters. Excellent form, gaining in every phase of the game. Game really sets up well here. We know that because he's got a second and a win here in the last 5 times out at Muirfield Village. Did withdraw last year despite, I'm not looking at what round he withdrew in, but I think he was gaining something like 7 strokes to the field at the time that he withdrew. So as back issues flared up on him. So I think at 9,800 with the form and the course fit, I think Colin is a great play this week. And then you didn't mention Patrick Cantlay, who is a little further down from us, all the way down at 18% mention share, but he's probably the course horse here. 2 wins at Muirfield, a 4th, a 7th, a 3rd, no miscuts. Only has marginally lost strokes putting twice. Everything else he's gaining, and you can do that here. You can be a 0 putter as long as you strike the ball really well. That's typically what gets it done on tough courses, and he's quietly had a really solid year. So if we are thinking that Patrick Cantlay ownership projections are in the 10% range, that's a steal at 9,400 for a guy that's really owned this golf course.
I wouldn't be surprised if that ticks up a little bit, even with his form.
Yeah.
Just once people get a little bit more research into how he's played here in the past. I'm with you on Morikawa. Yeah, like you hit on the high points there. Just to highlight some of the guys that are on him this week: Andy Lack, Landon Solinsky, who've had some good performing weeks for us. The other guy who I know you were big on last week, Mike, but I think deserves to be highlighted again is Corey Connors. Talking about softer pricing, yeah, he's 8,500, which first look for Corey Connors might give some people some pause. He's 25% mention share, and he's 89 on the MPIs for us so far. But he was sixth last week. He had a T44 at the RBC. That's his worst finish since the Sony in January.
Mhm.
He's just been steady Eddie, and then even you look at elevated events. Yes, he is not top 10ing every week, but he has 18th, 38th, 13th, and 26th at elevated events and majors this year. And you at 8,500, that seems perfectly reasonable if you're shooting for that 13th or 18th as a third guy in your lineup. And it's going to depend a little bit on your lineup construction, but I think Connors is definitely someone I'm interested in this week with how he's been hitting the ball, striking the irons. He has not lost on approach since the Pebble Beach, and that was just slightly. And he's just, hey, and we're not looking for guys that can putt this week. Traditionally,
I love Team No Putt on small greens. Like you
Mhm.
just don't make them putt 50 footers. It's a great setup. So I'm with you. I'm with you. I like Corey Connors. And I think the PGA probably. I heard this someone made the comment about Mark Hubbard. Hasn't missed a cut in however long, and I think all year really, and that he's basically turned the PGA Tour into his personal ATM. I don't think the PGA Tour likes that. Corey Connors, same way. Like some of these guys are just sneakily cashing a lot of checks this year. Good for them. Jordan, you got anyone you want to throw out?
I'm kind of saving myself for next week. I was looking through the lineup and I was like, is there anyone that I really care about here? I mean, I've got Scotty for my other one and done. I don't want to tell you who I'm going to pick this week. You guys would copy me so you could catch up for that.
Okay.
You still have
fair enough.
Scotty in your other one
The
and
one,
done?
what's that?
You still have Scotty available in your other one and done?
Yeah, we're pretty far down.
Yeah. Hey.
I was saving him for a big money one, and yeah, it's now here.
Yeah, you literally missed the two biggest purses of the year in which he won.
He's gonna win more. I don't know what happened. I think I picked Ricky in one of them. Yeah, it's been a struggle.
Maybe I could interest you in I wish he was like $500 cheaper, but a $7,900 Tony Finau, he's missed one cut this year. Absolutely elite ball striking and distance, gaining heavily on approach off the tee the majority of the year. And Tony, as we know, just it comes down to whether or not he's a 0 or like -5 or 6 putter. And so if we can catch Tony on this golf course, evening some of that out on the greens, I think we could be okay. Like we said, it's kind of sets up well for Team No Putt. One missed cut in 7 times out at Muirfield Village, but 32nd, 8th, 13th, 40th, 11th, 8th. Plenty of good finishes here. So I don't know, sub AK Tony Finau, like if he's like a 4th or 5th guy in your lineup, could be be good to work in there.
I like it.
I
like me some Finau.
I know you do. We all do. Kyle, we need to, before we get to name game, we need to workshop Survivor because this is a big week. I mean, to me, this is a trap game. We're gonna have there's a couple of guys in the field that probably have no business making the cut, but we can't get cute, but we're limited in terms of the big guns that we can run out this week. And I do think that despite not playing all that well this year, but generally playing well on this golf course and having a good time out at the PGA, I do think that Victor Hovland is one of the clicks this week. I suggested Ludwig, although I sort of obviously missed the cut of the PGA, but I forgot about this whole knee issue. I'm hoping that's behind him. But you would hate to have somebody WD, which can happen to anybody. But do you have another 2 or 3 players that we might consider?
Yeah, I'm with you on Ludwig. I'm with Hovland is in. And I like the concept of Ludwig. He did never, I mean, he seems like a guy who's never going to miss a cut, right? So that makes you really, at least me, concerned about what was going on with him. That he was at that point.
Especially, he was such a hammer play at the PGA too. It should have been, and he missed the cut of the number. So it's like, but continue.
And remind me, we've already used Cantlay in this endeavor, right?
We have. Let me pull up the list here really quick on who is still available. But as far as big guns go, because I believe we think that we got to stay on some of the top guys. We have Ludwig, Burns, obviously playing well lately. Not interested in Clark. Case can be made for Finau. Fitz is sort of out of my mind right now. Homa, Vic, we're in on. Lowry, I don't think is all that awful. Decky obviously can't touch him in this thing forever. Spieth, you know, is going to burn you. Even though I probably could be convinced in a GPP event this week to play Spieth, especially if he's extremely low owned. Thagala's too volatile. I don't mind JT. He's been playing well this year. And then you got Zalatoris, who also but the pickings are slim. And obviously you could go to sort of the next tier of guys, but
I think your initial gut is the way to go. I think the only other one I would consider is if we got scared from an injury concern is Lowry. I want to say JT, I want to say Homa, but those dudes are so blow up possible. This should be a Max Homa dream course.
Yeah, and it might be. And I think those guys are maybe guys you could be looking at in DFS, especially, big tournaments this week. But we need extreme safety. And again, we're going to block out of our mind that Ludwig missing the cut on the number at the PGA just was an anomaly. And hopefully this is a little lower stress and he can just make sure he stays out of the bottom 12.
Which is complete opposite of Max, who just was not Max last time we saw him. Otherwise, I think he would be consideration. But at the Schwab, he was awful.
Yeah. Well, let's try to make it to Pine. I'd love to have a run at this when we're down at the tournament next week. So that brings us to, I know we're running long, but that brings us to the name game. And Jordan, congrats! It hasn't happened often this year, but you came through with Sam Burns kind of coming out of nowhere, turning his game around along with Roy McIlroy, who made a bit of a run, and your guy, college alum Eric Van Rooyen.
Nice. I got to pick first, and they didn't suck. Look at that.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Well, you squeaked it out by 4 points.
I barely beat Kyle.
Yeah. You did. It was close. Yeah, it was good stuff all around. So this week we have the Memorial. Why is the Memorial called the Memorial?
Didn't it used to be on Memorial Day weekend?
That's funny because I remember growing up being really confused why the Memorial wasn't on Memorial Day weekend, and it was always the Colonial that was on Memorial Day weekend. So no, it never was. It was always the week after.
Okay. Isn't this Jack Nicklaus's tournament or country club or something?
It is his. It's his estate, his club, and it is meant to honor the living and dead people that have contributed to the game of golf. So it's not in any one particular person, but it's for those that have contributed to growing the game. Certainly not Greg Norman. But I thought, if we had 12 players that are that were playing in honor of somebody that had passed away, not really related to golf, but just someone that had passed away, who might they play for? So here we go. Ludwig Aubert would be playing for Ludwig von Beethoven, the composer, obviously. Billy Horschel, his favorite infomercialist, Billy Mays, and Patrick Rogers, actor Patrick Swayze. Team 2, Tommy Fleetwood, appreciates the inventions of Thomas Edison. Kurt Kitayama, rocking out to some Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. And Ben Griffin, in honor of his great grandfather, a founding father, Benjamin Franklin. Team 3, Corey Connors. Spent a lot of time watching The Lost Boys and 80s child star Corey Haim. Victor Perez is countryman Victor Hugo, the French author, and Matt Fitzpatrick, recently deceased Friends actor Matthew Perry. And Team 4, Alex Noren catches up on episodes of Jeopardy with Alex Trebek from a couple of years ago. Tony
the dead guy.
Yeah, he's dead, but you can watch reruns. Tony Finau, the late crooner Tony Bennett, not the Virginia basketball coach Tony Bennett, but the singer. And then this one really hit home for me. Jason Day is playing in honor of Jason Frank, the Green Power Ranger Tommy Oliver.
I like it, Mike. I was just laughing as I was scrolling through our past name games. Mike goes here, or Norwegian gods and stuff like that, where the last time I made a name game, two of mine are either a play on the name or geography, and Jordan does one, and one of the answers is broke potato chip. So it's just juxtaposition there.
I hope you guys learned something. The funny thing was I struggled to confirm whether or not some of these people were dead or alive. I was
impressed that you knew all these people were deceased.
Well,
I would
they have
100% messed it up and had a life.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely started with a couple people that were still alive. So there we go. Listeners are going to get the first one. Kyle, usually you got to lean on what the listeners would like in the name game. Anything jumping out to you?
I feel like we'll say who's getting bet a lot this week. Not really any of these guys so far.
Horschel seems to be someone that people are talking about.
And Ludwig and Patrick. Oh, and Patrick Rogers is a little bit of course for horse stuff here. I like it. We can give him team 1.
All right. Listeners are getting team 1. That means I'm going to get team 2, and gosh, this is tough. There's a few guys I like in each of these teams, but I'm going to go with team 4 and the bounce back from Noren, along with my guy Tony Finau.
So team 1, yeah, you got Ludwig, Horschel, and Patrick Rogers. I'm going to go with team 3, Corey Connors, we've talked about, Victor Perez, and Matt Fitzpatrick. I think Fitz is a sneaky play this week, only $8,200. Wouldn't hate him from a betting perspective either.
You guys are in trouble.
Good luck, Jordan, with
Tommy
Fleetwood. And Ben Griffin. Ben Griffin, second place last week. That guy, I don't know. Bugs the I can't stand watching his face. Playing max fly golf balls. Got to hear the loan officer story every 2 minutes. Honestly, good for him to just like.
Whenever I hear Ben Griffin, I think of Family Guy. I'm like, Peter Griffin. No, maybe this is Peter Griffin's brother. I wasn't even a Family Guy fan, but every time I hear Ben Griffin, I think of Peter Griffin.
It must not help that his name is similar to a guy that I lived with in college who looks a lot like this guy. So I don't know. It's just something that I haven't been a big Ben Griffin fan, but again, he has certainly done well for himself. Anyways, Kyle, 1 week to go until the U.S. Open. Are you betting on the Memorial? And then have you snuck in any futures on the U.S. Open?
I have not bet on the Memorial, just with some travel schedules this week, made it a little harder. But if I were to, in the next 24 hours, just looking at DraftKings odds currently, I would be intrigued about Patrick Cantlay, 25-1. Some of the course history stuff we talked about here. I'm not going to play him anywhere else. So a bet seems like a good place to get some possible exposure. And just some guys you usually don't see at numbers like this. We talked about Finau. You can get Finau at 50. You can get Fitzy at 50. You can get Wyndham Clark at 55. I think it would be a week I would go down board. I have no interest in playing Scotty at plus 3.6 basically.
That can't be right. Yeah. Not in this field. Seriously.
No. Yeah, and he's 360. Xander's 900. Rory's 900. Morikawa's 1400. Vic's 16. No, thank you. So I would I'm hoping for one of these elevated events we finally get on a down board, or not even just a mid board winner. That's how I would look at it. And
Well,
no
good.
futures in yet, Mike. I need to. I'm gonna let the board reset, but there will be some bets placed on Monday, because we'll talk about that, right?
Yeah. We have our schedule might be a little mixed up next week. We're talking about, when do we do a preview show? And obviously the way that we do preview shows, if we do it on Monday, might feel a little different, which is all good. But we want to get as much content out next week as we can while being respectful to our families that are going to be missing us for 4 or 5 days. But once we're down there, it's going to be super fun. So we look forward to catching back up with everyone next week at some point, results of the Memorial, and then obviously look ahead to the big 2024 RTG trip at the US Open. See you.